Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stover. I'd like to take out some time to wish all of you there a happy celebration as the Muslim Ummah marks the el-Kabir. Now, the world over is celebrating to commemorate the obedience of Prophet Ibrahim, or if you like, Abraham, to sacrifice his son. Now, this, scholars say, exemplifies the virtues of love, obedience, sacrifice, peaceful coexistence, tolerance, and high ethical standards. It is said that nothing important comes without sacrifice, commitment, and sincerity of purpose that fosters national unity, stability, and development. At a time like this, Nigerians are advised to be good ambassadors of their religion by upholding high moral values, shunning greed, bribery and corruption, hate speech, and other vices that have overwhelmed humans, slowing down development and growth. Now, how well are Nigerians keen into this, especially against reports of betrayal of public trust and confidence? Now, these are some of the issues we'll be tackling tonight on NTA Tuesday Live. But first, let's get to see this report by Aliyu Tukur.
Eid el-Kabir, Eid al-Mubarak, Eid al-Adha, or Feast of Sacrifice, is one of the Islamic celebrations observed worldwide on the 10th of Zil-Hijjah every year, to honor the willingness of Prophet Ibrahim to sacrifice his son Ismail as an act of obedience to Allah's command. Before Ibrahim could sacrifice his son, Allah provided a ram as substitute. In commemoration of this, an animal, preferably ram, is sacrificed and shared into 3 parts. 1/3 of the share is given to the poor, needy, another to relatives, friends and neighbors, while remaining is retained by the family.
Today is very, very significant to the life of Muslims because they came and they fulfilled the right of Islam. It is a religious right for a Muslim to come out from their various homes to meet together in the mosque and pray, and afterward they will now go home and slaughter their animals as sacrifice to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator who give us life. So it signifies unity and gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
One of the significance that gets together the Muslim Ummah, they will visit one another, and then you even help that the needy, those who doesn't have, we have to extend to them to make sure that they rejoice with us the way we are rejoicing today. And these are the things that is be very good for the Muslims to know, and they should be practicing it all the time.
Apart from distributing the meat, chanting of supplications out before and after the Eid prayers on the first day and throughout the next 3 days are considered an essential part of the festival. The sacrifice of the animal can be done either on the Eid day, second or the 3rd day. Scholars say there are lessons to be learned from the feast of Eid el-Kabir in building a viral nation.
You know, Allah says, I don't need the blood or the flesh of that animal you slaughtered, but the fear of Allah in which you use in slaughtering it that matters. So that is why it is not 5 or 10 rams that matters. And if it's only one you can slaughter, then let it be with the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
The lessons is we have to learn to sacrifice for others. As we sacrifice to our Creator, definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala command us to make this sacrifice to Him so that we will learn to sacrifice for others. We should make sacrifice for the betterment of our country, Nigeria.
We should have a faith, and in that faith we should really believe strongly in Almighty Allah. And Allah, in His infinite mercy, doesn't forget anything. So if you are thinking in your mind that this is what I want to do, make sure that you are sure of what I say and do it accordingly.
Many argued that the world will continue to be a better place if people abide by the teachings that will bring about the desired unity, peace, prosperity and growth. Aliu Tukur, NTA News.
Well, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's introduce our guest to you at this moment. We'd like to welcome to this program Ustaz Abu Bakr Siddiq Muhammad is an Islamic preacher, member of the Sultan Foundation for Peace and Development, also a member of the advisory committee of An-Nur Masjid and Amir, president of Ummah Islamic Foundation. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let me also welcome tonight Reverend Israel Akonji. He is chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, Can North Central Zone. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay. And we're also joined tonight by Musa Daoud, National Coordinator for Islamic Family Foundation. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
All right. And joining us from our Maiduguri Network Center is Dr. Garba Abari, who's Director General of the National Orientation Agency, NOA. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
All right, so as usual, we acquaint you with the procedure of tonight's program. At the appropriate time, you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. The various platforms will be on the screen. We advise that you take advantage of them. However, for those who will be calling in tonight, we say this every Tuesday. For those who will be phoning in, do us a favor. At the appropriate time that your call gets through to the studio, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And the best way to know that your call has been passed through is you'll see your name appear on screen. Now, once that happens, you see your name on screen, it means that your call has been passed through to the studio. And so just go right ahead, make your comment, ask a question, and go right ahead. Don't bother too much about the greetings. Just go straight to the point. And our guests here will be willing to address whatever issues you might raise. And would like to emphasize that please keep it short and simple, straight to the point, so that other people can also get on the platform. So once again, thank you for joining us on NTA Tuesday Live for tonight. Let's begin by finding out what the significance of el-Kabir is. Every year, this is one part of the celebrations that we witness. It's an important part in the Islamic calendar. But once again, let's get to the point of what the significance is. And let's start with you.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. First of all, with the Eid, the Eid al-Kabir or the Eid al-Adha, which is most famously known as, it is a culmination of one of the pillars of Islam. This pillar, the fifth pillar of Islam being the Hajj, for the one who is able to perform it. Now, for those who are not performing the Hajj, who are resident and have the means to afford purchasing sacrifice or udhiyah, they carry out this particular act in obedience or obeisance to the Almighty, as was described in the previous report by some of the imams and some of the scholars that had spoken. We look at the life of Nabi Prophet Ibrahim or Abraham, alayhi salatu wasalam, may Allah's blessings be upon him, and the faith he had in the Almighty and the fact that he could surrender his own child. We know the relevance, or all of us who have been blessed with this favor of fatherhood, of being parents, you look at your child and you see that love you have for them, and you see the compassion you show towards them, and the prayers you even send upon them for them to be probably greater than you are. And here a prophet, who's also human as well, is tested with being commanded to offer his own son as a sacrifice. This was the ultimate test. And even in the noble Quran, when Allah Almighty describes this particular test, he describes it bala'un azim, a very grave trial that was put before Prophet Abraham or Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And in obeying Allah, Allah rewarded him with what was far greater. So the traditions we are following of the udhiyah itself actually comes from the traditions of Prophet Ibrahim or Abraham alayhi salatu wasalam. The major reason for us to do this, or the major significance, as I have stated, obedience, sacrifice, and putting one's own desire aside when it comes to following the commands of the Almighty. We all, as people of this nation and people of faith, Muslims and Christians and the Jews as well, because we all share this common denominator of Abraham, maybe Ibrahim, and that's why they're all described as the Abrahamic faith, because we all have that source from him. We learn completely about that sacrifice and that willingness to be selfless and to offer completely everything that we own and who we are to serve the Almighty in the best of ways, because at the end of the day we are his vicegerent on the surface of the earth. The verse describes it as Khalifa, that you are the Khalifa fil ard, you are the vicegerent of the Almighty on the surface of the earth. So you must do that which is good, you must establish good conduct and justice, and promote what is good and peaceful between the communities.
All right, we'll return to you in a moment, but let's come to Reverend. Now, a lot of what he's talked about is also reflected in the tenets of biblical verses. The talk about love, togetherness, sacrifice, obedience to the Almighty. How does this reflect on our general being as a people?
Thank you very much. The Abrahamic religions, as they call them, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, are in convergence on this account of Abraham's faith. The faith of Abraham, trust in God, is that central aspect of the three faiths that hold us together. And you see a lot of commonalities, even though there may be small differences. Yet the basic principle is that Abraham trusted God. Abraham was obedient to God. Abraham was devoted to God. Abraham believed in God. And he was ready to give up in obedience that which he greatly cherished, and that was his son, ready to give him up for God. And we find in Abraham an example of faith in God and trust in God at a time that it was most difficult. He still chose to do the will of God rather than his own will. He did not run away from the tests, and he was ready to give up that which was good, that which he cherished, so that God will be glorified. And what we see in this is that we all are called to a life of devotion to God, obedience to God, and complete faith in God. Trusting God even when we do not understand, even when things appear difficult, and to be sacrificial, also being willing to give up even that which is good, so that God will be glorified. And it has a lot of import for us in the way we live. We are also called to live sacrificially wherever we are, in the family, in the office, in the community, to give up even sometimes that which is good for the good of others, and not to hold on to everything, being willing to give up because God is in control even after you give up. And when Abraham did this, God surprised him, and definitely the principle is that there are surprises for those who are sacrificial.
All right, I love the way you put it. Principles, there are rewards for those who believe. But relating this to contemporary, issues, it's not easy, is it? For what you love the most and be told to sacrifice it and just give it up. It's not easy. Now, if those in the past believed, if they had the faith to believe, what has changed from then to now? That today, I'm certain if anyone told you to give up your son, for instance, if you had just one, you wouldn't really want to do that, would you?
Okay. For one, I'm not a prophet. So, and the beautiful thing about life of prophets, because there are more than 313 of them known, and these are special people ordained
to come and teach us about God and about living existence. So because these are teachers, these are personalities, and this in Islam, Adam alayhi salam is a prophet up to Noah time, and when Adam's generation was become adulterous, Allah wiped them off. Then Noah reestablished the nation, and when Noah's people again becomes adulterous, they were wiped off by the flood. Then Ibrahim alayhi salam, Abraham, becomes the one to now reestablish the nation, and that was why he becomes the father of faith, father of devotion to the one Almighty. Having said that, you see, appointment to prophethood is a responsibility and it's a leadership. And leadership is not given to a betrayer. And you cannot really know who loves you unless you have tested that person. And every prophet of Allah have to be tested before they are appointed. Even having been given the appointment of that office, they are still tested. And prophets of Allah will never betray that trust. And that was what played out in the life and time of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and his son, who eventually became a prophet at 13. Because both of them became a prophet because of that trust they exhibited in Allah. And what is the message here? The message is, it's not every dream that is real. There are satanic dreams. And that was why when the dream came to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam to sacrifice the son, the first instance, he discountenanced it. The second instance, then when the third time come, he now know that this must be a message from Allah. Now, again, if you are tested by Allah, and that is a key message for humanity, when Allah tests you and you obey the commandment, he passes you. But when Shaitan tests you and you obey the commandment of Shaitan, he destroys you. And that shows in the submission of Prophet Adam alayhi salam and Ishmael alayhi salam, and is the wife of Ibrahim, which is now the mother of Ishmael, because the father consulted the son that this is my vision, and he consulted the wife, the mother of the only child, that this is my vision. He didn't kidnap the child and say, I am your father. And he didn't go behind the mother and say, I am the Lord of the manor. So, and both of them submitted. And this is a key program in family and national development. Because when both of them are submitted, what else does Allah need? He's not in need of the blood or the flesh. Because they have submitted, Allah says we rewarded them with a tradition that becomes continuous. So what that will tell us is that as individual, yes, as ordinary human being, we certainly have our weaknesses. We have our fault lines. But the reference should always go, the standard, the model, it should always go to the prophets who, even though they undergone the same trial as we ordinary human beings are undergoing, how did they pass? They passed the test of life and time through obedience to the commandment. And that is to show us that there is no development, there is no progress, unless you are ready to obey the constituted authority. And the first authority is the creator of the heavens and the earth. So when you obey the law of the owner of the heavens and the earth, that is the first authority. The next authority is to obey the law, the commandment of the homes, the family, which in this case, the father is the head of the family. But just imagine if Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam is a drunkard or is a drug addict, and he told the family that he dreamt. What do you think they will respond to his call? They will say, you are going to take your kain again. And also no woman will believe such a man because he doesn't have character. No son will believe in such a father because it lack character. So what goes for Prophet Ibrahim is that character of purpose, character displayed openly, and the ability to communicate this to the family, that this is what I saw. So that character development is what is lacking in the ordinary human being of today. And when you look at it, this problem of humankind is not just beginning. How many were the children of Prophet Adam alayhi salam when the first son killed the junior brother? So people that will always be obedient in any community, they are not more than 30%. People that will always be disobedient in any community, they are not more than 30%. But you have the 40% who are neither here nor there. And those are the people the two sides are recruiting from. So when you have good people running the system, you find the 40 who are neither here nor there trying to belong. But when you have criminals leading, you also find them recruiting from the 40. So no matter how perfect a system you establish, there will always be lawbreakers. And no matter how bad the system pretend to be, there will always be good people. But our prayer is that we will always want, every woman wants to marry a good man. And good man is not because the man is handsome. He wants a man of character. But what do we have these days? People feel that every woman is looking for a rich man. But ask an average woman. They want a woman, a husband they can trust. How many of them out there? Every child wants a father that is devoted. How many of them do we have out there? Everybody is in the rat race. Every man wants a good wife, but they are looking at the beauty everybody is making over rather than building character. And every nation wants a good leader, but everybody wants to have it easy way out. No, there has to be dedication, there has to be humility, and there has to be purposeful mission. And of course, you pray. But of course, we normally pray and pray and pray without not wanting to act. So when all of these are aggregated, you will see it in the life and time of Prophet Ibrahim. And that is why it becomes a model. Allah says we make him an ummah, a nation for mankind. And that is why we are here.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Dawood. But let's go over to our Maiduguri Center and link up with Dr. Garba Abari, who's the Director General of the National Orientation Agency. Dr. Abari, so far we have looked at the religious significance of this, the faith, obedience to authority. I want you to relate this beyond faith and religious beliefs. I want you to relate this to human and social existence of how we can, as a people, relate to symbols of authority and even imbibe the tenets of being obedient, of sacrifice, which is the underlying factor of this period. So let's hear you.
Thank you very much, Cyril. Thank you very much, Nigeria, and Eid Mubarak. I have listened very carefully to all the interventions by the three scholars on this platform. But there is a common thread that passes through all that they have said, meaning that you don't separate the teachings or the principles of the Abrahamic religions, whether Judaism, Islam, or Christianity, from good conduct, from sacrifice, from good behavior, from obedience to constituted authority. And where a society actually lacks this, then it begins to tread on the path of destruction. If you take, for example, the wordings of our national anthem, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to defend her unit, to arise for compatriots, Nigerians call obey, to serve our fatherland with love, with, to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith, with heart and might. Now, all of this put together, you can say clearly that there is a central message, that of faith, Now, what are we as Nigerians professing? We are either majorly Christians or majorly Muslims. And the teachings of both religions revolve around love, sacrifice, devotion. Now, love, sacrifice, the sacrifice can mean here your ability to put away your petty concerns for the concerns of the other person. This, we have seen, is largely lacking. And it is lacking now more than we had known in the previous past. Now, in the connection between what challenges we are passing through as a nation and the lessons of sacrifice, the celebration of Eid al-Adha, which is the celebration of sacrifice, now clearly challenges us, interrogates us, makes us to ask the question, where is it actually? Did we miss the bus? Where did we miss the bus? In our professing our respective religious beliefs vis-a-vis our responsibility as citizens to one another, as citizens, as neighbors to one another, and as a group of citizens belonging to a particular geographical location called Nigeria. It is very important that we ask this question because the conversation has been going on. How much of love have we seen in our fatherland in recent times? How much of sacrifice have we seen? How much have we been able to be of good parentage? How much have our parents or our parents been parenting? How much have we obeyed the laws of the country? How much of good citizens are we? All of these are sins that can be located within the prism, within the context of the lessons of Prophet Abraham, his obedience to God, his sacrifice, his devotion, and of course, the lessons cannot actually be as perfect because the Abrahamic example was divine. He was sent in as a messenger. He was a prophet to set certain principles which we try, or we should try as much as possible to copy and to lead by. So in the context of our country today, the challenges we are passing through are so big, and one way of addressing these challenges will be to go back to what our respective religions teach and what we are also professing to be. We must be obedient, we must be sacrificial, we must be of character, and we must be prepared to live as good ambassadors of one another, or good ambassadors of our families, our homes, our country. Unless we are able to get all this, all the common thread that I have said have passed or had passed through the three Abrahamic religions actually will have no direct meaning to our national development and to, of course, the kind of society that we wish to build and we wish to see given the realities of Nigeria today.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Garba Abari. And just as he was speaking, we're joined by Professor Shettima Ali Dikwa. He's an international scholar and sociopolitical analyst. He is linking us up from our Kaduna Network Center. Prof, thanks for being with us tonight.
Our in-law, I was not late anyway.
Well, you've had the benefit of listening to all the other guests tonight and how they've related this, some might want to call it this act of faith and belief, and others might say an act of sacrifice. And someone was told to sacrifice what they loved best, and in this case, a son that always wanted. And tonight we're trying to relate this to how society in general operates. What are those things that we can draw from these, what has happened and which has been captured both in Islam and in biblical studies?
So it was a departure from the original norms that Prophet Abraham was sent to teach, and for us to imbibe. We allowed ourselves to go into an ambiguous sociopolitical adventure by embracing something that was alien, not within our holy scripture. That was the point of departure from the original things that Prophet Abraham was instructed to sacrifice his beloved child. The wife did not go wrong, did not disobey. That is, again, a departure from what is happening today. Women, by virtue of their own position, particularly when they are more materialistic, they are likely to create a problem for the husband to do what is not supposed to do, including toppling a government. Most of the wars were started by women behind the scene. And that's one thing. Now, number two, the word Islam itself comes from taslim, salama, and salam, which means that all of us should have that particular definition of saying submission to the laws of God. This is what is Islam, taslim. And then submission to peace for everyone to enjoy it. And then to create a scenario that shows you selfless in character. That is, again, a complete departure to what is happening in the capitalistic way of neglecting the welfare of the community. Refusing to say no to a constitution, for instance, in terms of what we are talking now for the topic of today, nation building. Why is it that we refuse to say this constitution does not give the traditional system its role that had been there before the coming of the white man into Nigeria? That was, again, wrong, because traditional rulers, traditional institutions, the clerics and so on, were actually the ones who were the judges. If there were things that were going wrong, the first point of call was the father, first of all. If the father is not there, the uncle is there, the cleric, the imam or the reverend father is there. The highest, you will go to the tradition, the next one close to you, the ward head, who will settle the issue without even making a noise, without even divulging the secret of it, rather than going to court that is now being dictated to us, that even a child takes his parents to court over little things and so on. That is embracing what is alien, what is not in the scripture, and neglected our own. This particular mentality, that it is not helping us. And luckily now, if we were to just retrace our footsteps now, my senior colleague, Dr. Garba Abari, is listening to us. That was not the way we were trained, even as students and so on. We respected. We had words to ask hard questions the way Cyril Stober does in his thing. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to use certain words and so on that will annoy the person who listens to you. This is the character. Your own Christianity should be shown in your own character. Your own Judaism should be shown in the base of what the prophets, over 24,000 of them, came with. Some of them were not, many were not known. But the messengers who are 313, like the Imam was referring to, 313, even among them were some of them were higher than others who came with, as soon as the people departed from the norms, they were cleared, and then another messenger was sent. And that by saying Prophet Ibrahim, the sacrifice of what he did exactly, Prophet Ibrahim, having been the father of all, that through Ishmael, Prophet Muhammad came, through Isaac, the Jewish prophets came. All the prophets came, except through Ishmael and so on. That is to say that no matter your tribe, your background, and so on, what is important is your own character in the eyes of God. And hence, they said, we created you of nations, tribes, and so on, so that you will know one another. That is exactly when you say we can have a Khalifa Dikwa in another place. No, we'll say Khalifa can be found anywhere, but Khalifa Dikwa will refer to somebody from Dikwa in Borno State. This is the identity, even apart from the tribal marks that we no longer do. So nation building does not come with an elitist people who always think of themselves, their wives and their own children, and those who are afraid of sacrificing. Leading a country is not for cowards. It's not for people who are afraid to say the truth, because truth does not need any makeup. For us now, in our own nation building, we have come a long way as a country. We ought to have been more developed. Our own contemporaries were the Singapore and other Asian tigers. Here we are. We were kidnapped as a people by the tiny elite, less than 1%, dictating or only copying aliens, other countries, and so on. Even in their own discussions, they love to refer to London or Washington or Atlanta or all these places as if Britain, France, and America were not built by human beings. What is wrong for us to now stay home, like what General Buhari used to say in 1984? This is our country. There is no other country than Nigeria. We shall remain here and salvage it together. Cyril Stober, as I'm talking to you, the elite, now if you just give them the pictures of newscasters on NTA and those presenting beautiful programs that unify us, they will hardly know the faces. That to show you that they are always looking outside rather than thinking of our own country. And that is, in the discussion, we will talk about it. I hope you will give me 3 hours for me alone.
Oh, well, Prof, we'll return to you. There's still so much you will talk about. We'll come to you. But back here in Abuja, another aspect of what we're talking about tonight is, yes, the divine instruction was given. Yeah. Sacrifice what you love best. In this case, it happened to be a son. Ordinarily, everyone would say, how can I sacrifice my flesh and blood, my son? But the prospect here is that at the end of it all, at the last minute, as they say, at the 11th hour, there was a change. No, it's no longer your son, but an animal that you should sacrifice. Now, a lot of scholars have looked at this, and they've said, isn't this a pointer to the fact that human blood should not be spilled? Even the Creator, having tested the faith of His creation, in this case, is asked, sacrifice your son to me. Test the obedience, test the faith. And at the last minute, when the faith had been placed implicitly in the Creator, said, no, not the human, but an animal. And scholars say that is a pointer to the fact that human blood is sacrosanct. How have we interpreted it as humans today?
Well, unfortunately, not very well. You see, in this particular narration, when we look at, and one thing I wanted to also buttress, the sign of obedience, when we talked about just Ibrahim or Abraham, Even his son Ismail was also obedient to the Creator in
Right.
answering him and even saying, "Oh, my father, do as you have been commanded."
Right.
So there was something very unique of this. The father was given a command, and then the son says, "Oh, you father, this is your command, do it and I will obey you. And by the will of God, you will find me patient." At that last minute when he was to carry out this act, and the Almighty called unto him and said, "Oh, you have truthfully carried out this command that was placed before you. We replace with something greater for you." As you stated, it shows the sanctity of human life. Islam establishes this, as we have a verse in the Quran that tells us that whoever saves a life, it is as though you have saved the entire humanity. And whoever takes a life is as though you have taken the life of the entire humanity. Unjustly, that is. Where you take the life of someone unjustly, you take the life of someone in a cruel manner, as we have seen globally what is going on in this part of the world or in different parts of the world where for no just cause people are killed. And some even try to base this on religion. There is no faith that promotes any form of terror or any form of bloodletting or things that takes the lives of others, because this life you are taking, you have no power to give life. So why should you take one that you have no power to give? This is first. Second is that life you are taking happens to be the loved one of someone else, a father, a son, a brother, a sister, a husband. And the pain of losing a loved one, especially when it comes to some through an unjust means or an unjust cause, is so difficult for anyone to bear. And these are part of the things that has led to us being pulled apart as a nation. When you hear of the crisis or crises that are happening, whether it's in the northern part of the country or in the southern part, and whether it's based on tribal or ethno-religious or whatever happens, you would always see that there is a group that happens to be the larger number of victims, and they would want their revenge. And then there are those who happen to be the perpetrators, who are also at some point in time victims. So it becomes a dangerous cycle of a person saying, "I was once a victim, now I want to revenge." A lot of also our current day clergymen, I must say, whether from the Muslim side or Christian side, are sometimes not helping matters so well. We should be a people that look beyond the emotions, beyond the stories we get right before us, and look at the greater good and look at the greater impact of maybe the sermons we give or the speeches we make. In looking at the lives of all of the prophets, there were great trials and tests that they went through, every single one of them. And we go back to them as role models because they teach us the importance of truly having patience and the importance of also believing in the Almighty over and above anything else. And for us, that is what we strive to continue to push, continue to tell our brothers in faith, and also to show, because it's one thing to speak and it's another thing to act.
Right.
Eid el-Kabir is one of the greatest means of acting, of showing that love, of pulling your neighbors together. I mean, I remembered growing up, when we would do the slaughtering, nobody knew who was a Muslim or a Christian. Even till today, while I was coming to the studio, I was like, okay, should I come with some meat? If I knew Reverend Israel would be here, I would obviously have come with a whole ram. And this for us was how we grew up, in a home, in a community where it's Eid, everyone comes to your home to eat and to celebrate. Right. And this is what we need to continue to build or to promote as leaders in terms of our faith, and also as a people in this nation, in order to ensure that our nation is better than we are today.
Right. Well, sadly, these are things that are, declining these days. Yeah. But our phone lines are already open, and we have our very first caller on tonight's program, Ibrahim calling in from Lagos. Hello, Ibrahim. Barka da Sallah. Oh, well, we lost that call from Ibrahim, but just to say, try again and keep the calls coming through. And we do expect tonight that we'll have so many calling in because of the issues we're talking about. But again, well, like he said, a lot of people will tell you, growing up, no one knew who was a Christian, a Muslim, and if you care, an animist. People just went ahead with their business, they related with each other. The binding factor was the humanity. So we ask today, what has happened to the humanity? Because people will tell you, there are countries in the world today that don't really push with any religious tenets, and yet they're progressing. So what is wrong with a country that is so deeply steeped in religion, and yet things are going wrong?
Well, thank you very much. Before answering your question, I don't want us to miss out on the difference between the attitude of Abraham and our current society. Abraham was ready to give up that which was good if that was going to please God, since he could not even explain why that should happen, but then he was ready to give it up. And in our own generation, it is acquisition and acquisition and acquisition. Taking every place that people are, they want to take more and take more. And there are several people at the margins of life that need to be assisted, and even to just be paid their salaries. We have people who have worked in this country for several months, they are not being paid, you know, and yet some people are in charge. They are building up empires for themselves, trying to acquire for themselves, for their children, for their children's children. That is not Abrahamic. Abraham was ready to give up. If it will please God, he will give up. And I think that these days we need to learn to give up. If we live in a community, whatever we have, let's give it up. If you are blessed in the community, you can give up of your wealth to repair the road there, to make a well there, to make a tap water system for the people. Just a life that is a life of giving, because God himself has been so kind to us, has given us so much, and he expects us to extend this to other people. So I think we should deaccumulate and look at people that are in need and be willing to make sacrifice for them. I think that is important. Now, coming to how we used to live, there was so much closeness in those days. Christians and Muslims, we lived in the same large compound. We respected one another. We ate together. You know, the dish from that house and the dish from this house will be different, and each person will want to have a taste of it. That was the way we lived. I remember growing up as a little boy. My father was a pastor when he was alive, and my mother, they would want to travel for some church conference programs, and they will leave me with a Muslim neighbor. You know, I will be with her, and until they were back, I was with her. She would back me up and carry me about. So as I grew up, of course, I was always looking for her, and we shared a lot of things. So those good days seem to be gone. In fact, sometimes when I think of our children, I wonder how they will live in Nigeria if we who even had that kind of taste now have ended up in this way. There must be conscious effort for us to celebrate our humanity, love one another, and Christians, I always say, if a Muslim has done something good, a Christian should praise him, congratulate him. Let it be seen that we are grateful for what that Muslim has done. So also, if a Christian has done something good, Muslims should be willing to speak about the good thing the Christian has done. Let's celebrate one another and not just be quiet when, okay, a Christian has done something good. Because I'm a Muslim, I will be quiet. I will not even say thank you to him. Or a Muslim has done something good, because I'm a Christian, I will just be quiet. I won't say anything to even praise him for what he has done. You know, so we want to only celebrate our own. When the other person has done so well, we don't come out to celebrate. So I think that we should know that we can have unity in our diversity, and our diversity beautifies us, and we should celebrate our diversity. And unity is not necessarily uniformity, that we must always do things the same way, but we can really celebrate this north and south, east and west. Nigeria is so blessed. You know, what you don't have in some places in the south, you have in the north. What you don't have in the north, you have in the south. We complement ourselves so well. It's such a great country. I think Nigeria is one of the greatest countries in the world. If we can just come together and work together and celebrate even our diversity and know that, yes, we are different, but then we are one humanity before God. And Abraham reminds us again that there is a kind of common descent of all of us, which should help us to strengthen our commonalities.
Right, thank you. Let's go back to the phone, sir. I hope we can get this through. This is coming from Suleja. Thank God, calling in from Suleja. Hello. Are you still with us? Well, okay. Hello, thank God. Are you
Hello,
still
good
there?
evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Your name is on screen. It means your call is
Hello?
through to the studio. We're waiting to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Right, go ahead.
I think the problem where we are getting it wrong is the mindset. Everybody feels that this religion is the most perfect one, the other one is not okay. But I have lived all my life in the North, and most of my friends are the Muslim folks. I have so many of them as friends. But during the Eid, I get so many gifts from them. During the Christmas time too, they get the same from me too. It is left for us, not minding the religion you are. See everybody as one. My best friend is a Muslim. I live in the same house with him. I'm a Christian. It is from the inside. Once we drop this religious sentiments and all this tribalism aside, I think it will help in growing this nation. The moment we see everybody as one, being it from the Muslim side or from the Christian side, everything will move normal in this country. Like today being the Salah Day, so many gifts from the Muslim folks, not minding that I'm a Christian. They visit me, I visit them. With your free mind, everybody will get things right in this country. Good evening, all.
Right, thank you very much. Thank God. Well, we'd just like to encourage all those who would be calling in. Just go, try calling. We know that sometimes the network can be erratic, but do put in that effort in calling. And once you get through, just go straight to the point. Don't even bother about greeting those in the studio. We know you're there and we know you wish everyone well. So, back here in the studio, it used to happen that in the past, people went to schools, but we didn't hear so much about those who were trying to Christianize others, or those who wanted to Islamize others. Why has that suddenly become an issue today?
I think I have different perspective to all of this. Number one is Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam explained why the need for the son to be sacrificed. He explained it. Ordinarily, every prophet of Allah are charitable. And among those that are noted for charity is Prophet Ibrahim. Every guest that enters his house must eat. And there was a day he slaughtered 1,000 cattle, 1,000 cows, a herd of cattle. And people were surprised that, you are so generous, you slaughtered this, and he said, what are you saying? Even if God gave me a son, I can sacrifice him. And that was what led to, he just said it not as a vow, carelessly, because at a man of close to 90 plus and doesn't have a child, and he was desiring it. So Allah held him onto that promise that if I give you a child, you can even sacrifice it, and now he has fulfilled it. And that means that Allah is not in need of flesh, of animal, or blood. If he's not in need of animal flesh or blood, is it human flesh or human blood is going to need? Certainly no. Number two, there are problems all over the world, including Nigeria, because arms and ammunition are now business. There are countries that are manufacturing all these guns and all these arms. They are not made in Nigeria. And they must make profit. Who are those that are causing trouble?
They want to sell them.
People are causing trouble here and all over the world. So if some people are making arms and ammunition and there must be returns, it means there will be no rest all over the world. Why are we not looking into that? And who are those that are selling to government? The same source. Who are those that are selling to these criminals? The same source. The guns that are being used in Afghanistan, I'm not sure it's being produced in Afghanistan. The one that is used by IPOP is not made by the Igbos. The one that is being used by so-called Boko Haram is not made in any part of the north. Who are those that are manufacturing it? And the same quality is the same quality that the government even has, if not better, superior. So what are we talking about here? We know our common enemy. It is for us to look inward. Like the prof in Maiduguri said, we just need to develop our homemade technique to manage ourselves. Having said that, now you look at people that are saying there is no more camaraderie. Look, every household right now of a Muslim slaughtered an animal. Who are those that are going to eat it? It's the Christians and the Jew. It's for those that didn't slaughter animal. Virtually every household of a Muslim all over the world will slaughter an animal. There are deacons, there are pastors, there are prophets, so-called, that have booked down for my meat. I've not eaten meat since daytime. So it's our colleagues in the offices. So which story are we really narrating? You can see the caller from Suleja. He said his friend is a Muslim. He has received gifts all over. And it's the same thing all over. I think we are being allowed ourselves to be programmed. Not to say the good narrative of us. Of course, good stories don't sell. So Nigerians are innately good, and we are still good. I will tell you that there's no part of this country I've not visited. And it's not everybody in this country that are Muslims. And there's no part of this country I've not welcomed. And if you come to my house, you will see animists, you will see Catholic, you will see everybody is there. So which story we are looking at the city center, and we are looking at the politicians who are supposedly Muslim or Christian. You don't even know which one they belong, because they are also the ritualists and the kidnappers. So what are we talking about here? So we are allowing the politicians who are greedy, who are possibly agents of misfortune, selling all this machinery of war to us to destroy ourselves. And you are allowing them to dictate our mindset and telling us Muslims don't like Christians, Christians don't like Muslims, and telling us Yoruba don't like Hausa or Hausa don't like Igbos. And they are still trading together. This same set of people are the ones that will also, when they become governor, loot the treasury. When they become senator or whatever they call themselves, put the nation to ransom. So, and there are Muslims among them, so-called. There are Christians among them, so-called. There are those who doesn't have anything among them. And what are you talking about? We don't allow these people to determine our narrative. Of course, media is very powerful. But these days, when a Muslim wants to obey the law of Islam, you call him a fanatic. When a lady wants to use hijab and dress decently, you say he's a fanatic. When I say I don't want to smoke or I'm not drinking alcohol, you say I'm not social. Then what are you talking about? So you made those that are ready to obey the law, you give them complex, as if they are not human beings. No, I think we are allowing the wrong narratives to be made of this great country and of our people. Why all this mischief is going on is because crimes are not being punished. As long as look at you call it impunity, but the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam obeyed the law. Ishmael obeyed the law. The wife obeyed the law, and he built the nation. Now, when you look at this so-called impunity, get hold of so-called Christian in politics. and he has committed a crime. You want to punish him. He said they are victimizing me because I'm a Christian. If it's Igbo, he says it's because I'm Igbo. If it's Yoruba, it's because I'm Yoruba. So who is fooling who? And there is no nation will grow on this sentiment. So for us to grow, let us pick the criminal element among us. Now I ask, why are we filling form? In any form, you say, are you a Muslim? Are you a Christian? Let them start asking, which church do you go? Which mosque do you go? So when you commit a crime, we know we bring you to your church or to your mosque, not to cane you, just be sweeping the premises. And you will see that all these criminalities will drop. So we want to live good life. We want to earn, we want to go to heaven. But we don't want to sacrifice. And sacrifice is about discipline. Once you are not disciplined, you cannot run a home, your own home. Even your children will disobey you. And check all our leaders. How many of them have children that are obeying them? How many of them have wives that are obeying them? How many of the so-called women among them have husbands at home? How many of them can come out and say, I want my daughter to marry this kind of man? So we have a situation where we are only playing politics. And when they say politics, I was thinking politics is about development. But if politics is about development, is it when I lie against you, I'm playing politics? Is it when I blackmail Islam, I'm playing politics? Is it when, is that politics? In Islam, to slander, when you slander a human being, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, when you slander a personality, the Quran describes it as if you are eating the flesh of human being alive. You are eating the flesh of your dead brother alive. That is how heinous it is to slander. Not to talk of so-called hate speech. What do you say? Hate speech have always been there. But when it concerns a Muslim, it is not hate speech. But when it concerns the politician interest, it is hate speech. When you look at a Christian who says he's not into all this, and you say he's SU, or you give him a label that connotes inferiority complex, that is hate speech. So what we are talking about here is that until and unless we have people of integrity, and we don't even need it, even when we have bad people in government, let's follow the law. The law, we have very beautiful law in our codes. If you are not ready to go to the scriptural law of the Christians, and you are not ready to come to the Quranic law, you feel it is too harsh, even the law you made by yourself, how much of it did you follow? Did you obey it in obedience, or it is in the other side? So what we are saying in essence, all these mischief makers will be hiding under politics and be telling us that we don't like ourselves. They'll be telling us so. But in reality, do we like ourselves? You still have, as we speak, Muslims that are married to Christians. Because the Quran allows it, and it's still happening. Check majority of our leaders. Most of the male Muslims are married to Christians. And you say we don't love ourselves when we are getting married. Which love do you express better than that? Muslims and Christians are still doing business together. And you say we don't love ourselves. Which love are you talking about? And the same set of people are still cheating all of us together. And you say we don't love ourselves. I think we choose not to love the Creator of the heavens and the earth, because we believe we are going to stay here forever. And unless you know that this world is transient, I'm not saying this world as wicked, because if it is wicked, I won't be here. This world is not wicked. I want to be here for as long as God says I'm going to be useful to humanity. But if you feel that you are going to create the image being given to us by the Western world that religion is not good, because we are saying other nations, they are doing well. There's no nation that is doing well without religion. There's no nation that is doing well without religion.
All right.
But people are causing trouble on purpose for economic reason.
Okay.
So that we keep hating ourselves. So let's start narrating the positive stories about ourselves, and not the programmed, predetermined scheme of the enemies of this nation.
All right,
I think
thank you very much, Musa. At this point in time, we'll take a short break.
Stay with us. We'll be back with more after this time out.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. As usual, we took out the cameras to talk to the citizens and find out their views. Let's see this report.
Unity of this country, already the sacrifice have bring a clause there that make unity easier, but many people don't understand. Whenever you are cutting this meat or you are sharing this meat, you are supposed to make sure the poor one around you have it. You are not just sharing it neighbor to neighbor alone, no. You are giving it to those who are in need. Between now and tomorrow, they need meat. That's why you are going to cut it tomorrow. You understand? So the sacrifice again, and the unity of this country is that we should also pray that the West, South, North, East, and the Central are Nigerians. We are no longer talking about South way, North way, because of it's only map and paper that describe that thing. Whenever we gather together, nobody see anything like tribe in our faces.
As far as you are a human being, we need to relate amongst ourselves in the way it is described in the holy books, both in the Quran and in the Bible. The scriptures never say you should discriminate against fellow human beings. You should be fair to all. And that is the same example I want us in Nigeria to emulate. Not issue of, say, you Yoruba man, Hausa or Igbo man, no. We should look at ourselves as brothers. irrespective of, we should think of more. We should think more of what unites us than those things that, you know, that separates us. I think
we should practice the first law that the Lord gave: love thy neighbor, love your neighbor as yourself. If we love ourselves, I love you, you love me, I don't think there will be any acrimony or any kind of misunderstanding. For this nation to grow, for us to come together and build this nation, it entails the joint effort of all of us.
The lesson we need to learn from here is this: when you have a promise with somebody, when you and someone talk, this is what I'm going to do for you, or this is how we agreed, you should not breach of the agreement, because breach of agreement is a very difficult offense in God's hand. So it is just like it's in Bible, it's in Quran, but we Muslims, we need to follow the process of Abraham. That is what we are doing tomorrow by God's grace.
Secondly, what
Right, the voice of the people. Let's go over to Maiduguri Center and link up again with the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Dr. Abari. Well, it's been said that Nigerians love praying. They pray about just everything. But how come, that's the question that's been asked, how come that there's very little godliness, so much prayer, so much religion, and not enough godliness?
Thank you very much. I think you have already asked that question, the answers have already been given. But I think that we cannot stop asking this question and expressing concern about how much of religion we profess, and yet there is little of God in our lives. Fundamentally, there are attitudinal issues, character issues, behavior issues that we need to address, and these are very key. No country actually makes progress without citizens of character. No country makes progress without citizens of value, and of course citizens of good behavior. And these are things that you cannot separate from religious teachings. The countries we all look at with admiration, whether it is in the Americas or in Europe or in Asia, are not countries that just dropped like manna from heaven. They had been built by leaders and built by citizens. And of course, we also would want to call on our citizens to look at that which is, look at this and make contribution towards national development by first and foremost self-policing ourselves. By first and foremost self-policing ourselves. How much of a good citizen am I? How much of a good father am I to my children? How much of a good neighbor am I to my neighbors? How much of a good ambassador of Nigeria or of my town or my state am I? And this now brings us back, therefore, to the teachings of whatever religious persuasions we profess. A good Muslim, a good Christian must be of character, must be of value, must love, must obey, must devote, and must be a proud ambassador of himself and of the community from where he comes. Because you don't separate character from your religious teaching. You don't separate character from your values of integrity, values of hard work, values of honesty, values of love and devotion from what your religion, whatever are your religious teachings you profess. So in this respect, therefore, we as citizens have a role to play at individual level. We have a role to play at community level. We have a role to play at national and at subnational and at national level. If we aspire to is to see a country, or our dream, a country that should be better than what we are witnessing or in which we are living today. Uh, uh, there is responsibility at different levels. This responsibility at different levels lie on the shoulders of leaders, on the shoulders of traditional and religious leaders, and then at the much lower level, at the level of parents. So, as parents, we must parent very well, so that we see our children grow up to be responsible citizens, children for which we shall all be proud of. As religious leaders, we must be very circumspect in the kind of words we use during our sermons, during our preaching. Quite a number of what goes around, especially in the social media, especially in our mosques and in some and in our churches, leave much to be desired. Leaders, therefore, religious leaders, therefore, must be circumspect in the wordings, in the use of words during sermons and during preachings. Words that should integrate, words that should teach love and devotion and sacrifice and obedience to constitutional authorities, and of course words that are in line and in synchrony with the basic principles of whichever of the religions that one is preaching for. And then thirdly, at the level of leaders, leaders must live by example. They must be of integrity. They must be honest, and especially leaders that have been charged with the responsibility of managing public affairs, public funds. If you are not a man of integrity, you are not a man of honor, then definitely the kind of leadership you are going to provide will be such that will fall below the standard expected of you, and of course will not be the type that will integrate, that will build. Rather, it will be one that will disintegrate and in so doing, therefore, bring a lot of acrimony and disharmony in the larger society. In this respect, therefore, I would want to say that much as we have a lot of religious belief and persuasions amongst us as citizens, there is still little of God in our lives. But the narrative can only be correctly related by Nigerians themselves. We as a people must give our own account, our own story, and live our lives, and not allow people from outside to determine how we relate with one another, how we live as a people, and how we relate with the larger global society. The issue is there is a common humanity. This common humanity makes all of us responsible for goodness or lack of it in our lives. And this is what I feel every Nigerian should imbibe: honesty, integrity, love for nation, love for self, love for country, and of course a strict adherence to the teachings of either Christianity or Islam. By the time we are able to do this, then we are sure we will begin to bring back God into our lives, because God is honesty, God is integrity, godliness is honesty, godliness is integrity, and it is love and the devotion.
All right, thank you, Dr. Abari. Let's go over to the Kaduna Network Center, and Professor Ali Dikwa, there's this raging controversy. Is it the followership or the leaders? Now, I'm going to push this a little further. Sometimes they've said, look, the political elite, they're the ones who foment this trouble and point to our divisions. They're the ones who want to exploit religious differences for their personal gain. But again, the other side asks the question, now if you know that that politician is trying to exploit religious sentiments for his personal gains, why do you, as a follower, go along with him? That's the question. Why is it easy for the followers to follow the wrong person, and it's difficult for the followers to follow the right person?
Great question, Cyril. The truth is that in a democracy, it is easier to always smuggle in certain things that are abnormal. It is only in democracy that politicians try to normalize the abnormal, going above the laws of God. I.e., in the past, we had in a situation where during Salah or any other place, we were given pancake, a biscuit, and so on, to go and distribute to the children of the neighbors. We are, in fact, having our own last. Sometimes we even did not get it enough. Therefore, growing up with generosity, this is completely removed from the elite. Secondly, accepting something that is completely alien, throwing away your own out of the window. It's just like you boarding a plane, then you throw away your passport through the window. That when I came back as a student, I came across certain classified documents with which I was able to talk right from 1984 until I graduated 85 as a student leader. I was able to talk about the insurgency that was looming, that was being prepared from outside, just to the way they created for others, because war was a business and still a business. Just certain people, certain establishment, a global one, had to create war in order to sell arms. And war was not possible without fighting the basic laws of God. And that these people, as a Muslim, complete Muslim, if today the Muslims of the world agree that we go by the 10 commandments of the Bible, they will say no, because 10 commandments include you shall not kill. If we go by the law of God that killers should also know that they are going to join their ancestors within a very short time, i.e. not allowing lawyers to play gymnastics in the courts. And that if a situation in which only the few that have cornered the money, the resources made for these people. And as a commissioner of works, for instance, or minister of works, you can be called liable, or even for energy, that if the money meant for fixing a road is not fixed, or rail is not fixed, and eventually people die in the process, are you not likely to be called upon to say you are part of that thing? And that when I came by, I started talking about it, instead of the government at that time to listen to me, they were persecuting people like us who said, let us change this attitude. After all, this particular thing that is being imposed from outside can be changed. We came through 2015, they said Nigeria was going to be dismantled, to disintegrate. We stood up and we prayed of the people. Today, our own religiosity is just about prayer and fasting, not the character. By the way, praying and fasting is your own scorecard that you'll be allowed. But what about the character, the rights of others? In a situation in which you can no longer drill the child of your neighbor, if you insist that the child is not going to school and you drill him, he was doing the wrong thing in the absence of his parents, perhaps. If you are the Mijan Hajja, that is controlled by the wife, the way most soldiers are, because the wife of the soldiers are always one rank ahead, above the husband, that by the time when you insist, the woman can eventually say that you are insisting you don't like the child, or perhaps you are looking at her too much, and so on. In the Second Republic, 1979 to 83, NPN, GNPP, we were in GNPP in this, we had the state government of under Mohammed Goni. We had an SSG, a Yoruba man. We also had a Chief Justice, the state Chief Justice, an Igbo man, Kalu Anya. And when that particular government, they say, had a problem, we is going to look for Lagos to help. In a situation in which if you allow a few people to say Lagos alone, not Port Harcourt, don't include Port Harcourt in a way that is a sea there, develop, if we would like to have just a 3, for instance, say what is good for Lagos is equally good for Port Harcourt and Kano, even if it means providing a dry port. The followership is that when the followership is kept in darkness, this is the same elite, political elite, who are now working hard in order to block people from knowing their history. Not knowing the history, it means also blocking you not to read. When you don't read, it means you don't even access the truth that not all media will invite people like us and so on will tell. They will just say a situation in which the history of Kano and Borno that now we have up to Sudan and southern Libya and so on, that we had over 300 people, ethnic groups, were called all Borno, including the major tribes in northern Nigeria, Niger and so on, including the Fulani. Today, when you say Borno or Kanuri is just limited, it is only during democracy that deceit comes in, allowing certain people, certain basket mouths from all over the country to say things that are not in the Bible, to say things that are not instructed by the Quran. We should be able to say, wait, let us see what is there in the Quran, what is there in the Bible. The same deceitful people, luckily for us now, after using and dumping their intelligence authorities in the past, where the likes of Tafawa Balewa, we had Patrice Lumumba, we had great leaders, Thomas Sankara, we had Jamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, Ben Bella of Algeria, and so on, saying, let us have a good country based on our religious basis, Christianity and Islam. That when somebody like Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana said, United States of Africa, they came after him. All these coups, all these assassinations were prepared and executed by foreign intelligence. And today, if Nigeria says, let us have a common currency, for instance, for West Africa, you have France that has 14 countries and so on, saying, giving at least $400 billion annually, and their own money is deposited in the French treasury. That is where I studied. I know, and at that time, even after graduating, France, certain universities abroad will invite me to go and criticize their own government. That is to say how they appreciate. They appreciate anywhere knowledge is. But Africans, we don't like our own. For instance, if we listen to our next man, the world head, my Ungwa is closer to the people. In a situation in which today a councillor is even above, even the chairman of local government is placed above the emir or the shehu, for instance, that we had a shehu in the past, during Second Republic, great people, even for Commissioner of Information in the past, 7983, we had Abator, who is now the shehu of Dikwa, saying the correct thing, not deceiving. Today we have only 3 church people who tell lies in order to remain in power, who cannot face the governor or the president to tell him the truth. They cage you as a governor, tell you what you want to hear, and that they are completely outside. The people cannot come to them. The way in congregation prayer, there is nothing like minister, commissioner, governor, and so on. We are all, the mason, the bricklayer, and so on, we will all align behind one leader. One leader, if he goes wrong, anybody within the congregation should be able to say, sir, this is the correct thing to do. In a situation in which if you are a governor, people from protocol will also show you where you are stepping to make you, to frighten you that if you go and visit and so on to the people and so on, it's likely to happen to you. It will not happen again because those intelligence agencies, after using, including the CIA agents, MI5 and so on, who used to destroy the world and create wars, are now naked. We can see them. We can see them, and therefore it is high time for us, to Nigerians all over in diaspora and so on, to love their own country, to come back, so that we can sit down and intermarry. For instance, now with this particular scenario where we have our brothers from the Southwest who are also occupying big portfolios in the South, we are intermarried. And today somebody is telling you that I belong to this category and so on. In the 79, I don't want to mention the name, They created a scenario that we laughed at it. We laughed at it because they created, they said, Christian Association of Kanuris. And we laughed it because that was not going to possibly, not by our own making, it is by the God's grace that the Kanuris are 100% Muslim. Is it the same thing with us? We cannot reason when we are hungry and angry. When you have the Taliban now destroying everything, tourists and so on, because they were denied information, they were denied literacy, they were denied the basic things that they ought to have. Today, almost 20 years of our own democracy, we are still talking about water to drink, electricity. If a governor fixes a culvert and so on, so people must join the trail in order to praise them as if they are doing this thing from their own market. Today, 20 years after this thing, the Mr. President and his vice were able to declare their assets. Others did not join. Today, when the party says do direct primaries, the governors are saying no because they wanted to hijack the delegates and so on. When we don't fix our own, when we don't Nigerianize our own democracy, base it on basic values, cultural values where we respect all, the common grounds that every killer must know that he is going to join his ancestors within a very short time, not allowing people to pay money, even if it means giving visa to judges and lawyers from outside this country. In Africa, great judges and lawyers can be brought in order to this is the kind of thing we would like to say, the leadership of this country, let us face the reality. People who have been there, I always tell my students, right from 1985 and so on, if you want to help Nigeria, be a teacher who will be outspoken or be a journalist. The likes of you have been, Cyril and others have been asking the great questions, all of them. But how many times will they involve you? Today, politicians like Latif Jakande and Mohamed Goni are rarely invited to join any discussion because they stood by their own people, but they are saying that we are all the same. If we cannot query God for creating me black, the other one white, yellow, short, tall, Kanuri, Shua, Margi, Baburbura, and Fulani, Hausa, and so on, Igbo, and these things are not from the ordinary Igbo man, not from the ordinary, all the over 500, the thing. I always said the Northeast that is now dismantled, if we don't refix it quickly, with the coming of the Northeast Development Command, that has not even started. That was how we got it wrong with the Southeast, the Igbos who did virtually nothing, and this war that was imposed on them. After them, they selected a few to give them, to corner the money, and the same thing with Niger Delta. If you can, as a government, fix it, take the development direct to the people, take care of the few elite who corner the thing, who have access to the media to say the wrong thing and to normalize the abnormals. And basic the laws of God, it is the same law that, particularly for you as a Muslim, you know that the Bible is inside the Quran. And if they had not changed certain paragraphs on the Bible and other previous books, there wouldn't have been a Quran again. The Quran, they cannot change it, but they are trying to change those who read the Quran by giving scholarship. And then when they go there, they teach them to be hard. It is either this or that, no tolerance, no in between. And the first target was the Northeast and Borno and so on. We had it, we know it. They use only ethnicity and religion. When you have good governance, please, you want to have governance, people will not ask where this money is come from. The thing where Nigerians, over 90%, are all deceived, and they don't allow you, if you are doing the right thing, to be even a minister in the past. But today, with the coming of the likes of Trump, who are saying America first, we should be able to say Nigeria first. Whoever does the wrong thing, each community should be able to sit on the table of their own devil.
Right, thanks a lot, Prof. So back here in Abuja, let's as we begin to wind down, how can Nigerians turn this around? How can Nigerians begin to change in the direction of staying together, recognizing what is good and what is bad, and standing firm on the truth?
Well, first and foremost, and this I would say, based on everything that has been said, especially by the last speaker, Professor Ali, and may Allah preserve him upon goodness. The first thing is to build character. A scholar once said that he advised his students that before knowledge, have character. Because you might acquire all this knowledge and then you become arrogant. You become a person that cannot be spoken to or corrected. But when you build your character, what happens is that over time, it makes you nurture patience, tolerance, especially tolerance. And that's one of the things that we lack today in the world. And something that teaches us this, when we look at the narrations of all of the prophets of the Almighty that came to this world, you would find that they all had one peculiar or particular trade or particular occupation that went around all of them, and this was the occupation of cattle rearing or rearing of animals. You would notice that every prophet had this, and every great man at some point in time would be involved in this as well. What did it do? It was that it helped to build your character. It helped to build patience, because if you are able to control and guide and give some focus to animals, then you can do better with human beings. It's proposed that you can do better with human beings. Although sometimes you think that there are some human beings that are worse than animals in terms of how they think. Unfortunately, this is the sad reality for us. So the first thing really is to build that character, help to build that character in our children. And how do we do that? For a lot of the adults, for a lot of the elites, I don't want to say it's too late, but unfortunately we are in a nation where the elites, or some of the elites we have today, it might be too late to actually pull them back. They've gone too far off. So it's now time for us to begin to look at the generations to come. How do we become models, or how do we create better models, role models, that they can see the characters they have and want to emulate some of that? It might be too far-fetched in the minds of so many to say, how can I be like a prophet? How can I be like Abraham? The reality is, there are people who would think like this, that he was a prophet of the Almighty. I'm not a prophet, I'm only human. So what do you want to tell me about trying to emulate him? The idea is that they are examples. We try to emulate to the best of our ability. But then there are those who exist whom we can also still take as models and say, look, he is not a prophet, but look at what he achieved. He was able to stand firm upon integrity. He did not sell himself out. He did not, he did not lose sight of the bigger issue, which was the general welfare of an entire nation. We are a nation of over 200 million. I tell people really that we're over 200 million. The statistics might say 180, but when you look at it, really, we're getting close to 200 million, or if not more. And imagine a nation as great as this, which would surpass many nations in the next few years to come in terms of population, but yet our development is not it's not in the same it's not in that same matrix of what you have of the population growth and then our development. And that's why there's this whole scrambling for the little resources that we have. So until we build people with character, until we support people with character, until we have people that we can say, yes, this is a man of integrity that I can vouch for, we will not be able to go beyond where we are at. But once we're able to do that, regardless of all of the issues that are around, yes, the fact of the matter is, you want to get a diamond, you have to go into the dirt. You have to mix with the dirt to pull out that diamond. You don't just get it, on its own. It's not just there in the surface. If it was, a lot of us would be billionaires. But you dig deep, you go down in the dirt, and you mix with that dirt, and then you find that diamond and you pull it out. If we as a people must find the right leader that we desire, we must go through the shafts of the dirt that we see around and pull that person that would be able to inspire others, to have the character that everybody wants. And that is one thing that I must say that the current president has going for him. He might not be fit as a fiddle. He might not be the way he was 100 years, sorry, not 100 years now, but a few years ago, maybe 40 or 50 years ago. But the fact that there is that integrity, that is what won him. And that's what sold him. And that's why till today, he's still being sold. I'm not promoting any particular, candidate, because as clergymen, we must remain apolitical. We must always pray for the best of leaders. But then when we recognize certain qualities that we wish to see, we cannot help but speak about it, whether Muslims or non-Muslims. Another person that really inspires me is the current vice president as well. I love this man sincerely. I love what he has done for this country. I love how he has stood loyally, and he has not flint in one way or the other, regardless of whatever pressure has been there. It's another example of the kind of leaders that we want to have. People who would be God-fearing, and people who would also stand for what is right, and they would be loyal. That loyalty is so important, and it's missing, and it's all because of character. Once our character is based on material things, then we will naturally deviate from what is right. But once we have people with good character, what it builds is good governance. And when we have good governance, we have a just society. In any just society, you will find development. Where there is no just society, no matter how religious the people are, you would always find the level of degradation and corruption that is sometimes insane. Because I still ask myself, a lot of money that we hear people amassed illegally, how much of it are you going to spend before you leave this world? How much of it are you going to gather? Even if you gather for your children or your children's children, they will die as you will die. And how do you know the wealth you have amassed is going to be used in the best of ways after your death or after theirs? So a lot of what our values have become today is based on material. So we need to change that mindset. We need to build character, better character. We need to also be examples of those characters or what we want to have. Be the mirror, as it is said. Be the mirror of others. So that when people look, or when you look at the mirror, you see the kind of person you want others to be. And this is the first step, God willing.
Right. Just on character, again, I believe that Abraham offers us that kind of character we need in Nigeria. A sacrificial character, a man who was not self-centered. And the principle we always teach is that God first, others second, yourself last. And if you are sacrificial and you are ready to let go, everything has to do with sacrifice. A sacrificial spirit will build into a great character, because at the end of the day, whatever you give, you will even get back. Somehow it's a principle of God's word that we gain by losing, you know, and it is those who think they want to get everything that will lose all at the end of the day. Look at Abraham, ready to give his son. At the end of the day, on the mountain, God just provided in an unusual way, in an unusual place. He did not expect that anything will be there. But God can show up for you anywhere if you are a man of sacrifice. God can really show up for you and provide for your own need. So Nigerians should start living with this lesser concentration of acquisition for self and self and self. After all, we came to this world naked. We shall leave this world naked. We came with nothing. We will go back with nothing. So all the things you're gathering to just disorganize the whole place, at the end of the day, you're a loser for it. But those who really give, they receive back. Somehow it's a spiritual principle. Give and it shall be given to you. Whatever you let go, God has a way of returning to you in hundredfolds. And this is how we should put our faith. We should put our faith in practice by being sacrificial for our nation and remembering other people, remembering the future. Some of the countries we are talking about that are great, their forefathers made great sacrifices for them. And I believe that at the beginning of our own system too, there were people that were sacrificial. Along the line, materialism and acquisition came, but Abraham is teaching us to be ready to give up even good things for the sake of other people. And at the end of the day, the God who provides will also meet the need of that who makes sacrifices. In many ways, there are things money cannot buy. Good health, joy, peace, all these things. It's only God that can give. A sacrificial person will get all this. And I think people in Nigeria should know that.
Right.
So,
okay.
So
Yes. You see, sacrifice is a personal choice. It's a personal responsibility. You see, we are talking of good Muslim, good Christian, good, but then there will always be bad Muslim, bad Christian, bad animist. So what happens to those ones? There has to be rule of law. There has to be discipline. There has to be punishment. And that is why government, beginning from the home is a mini government. If the father is irresponsible and the mother is also irresponsible, you are going to have animal farm. So where you have the governor not paying salary, irresponsible, and you have a head of MDAs also doing what their minister or their governors are doing. What do you expect of the staff? Animal farm. So if we know we are going to change the system, there must be purposeful leadership from the family up. That leadership must be held responsible. And that was what Allah did to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Allah held him responsible. Let's see if he's going to fail. But he didn't fail. The wife didn't fail. The child did not fail. Now, what that means is that those that are bad among us, like that 30% I was talking of, those people need, it's either they change or they are punished. And in punishment or disciplined, because discipline and punishment are not the same thing. When you send them to jail, reform them. Let them be going to farm. Don't just be feeding them. Let them be producing for Nigeria to eat. They have taken our money. Take them to the farm.
Themselves.
Let them be. They must be. They pay them salary, pay them stipend like they do in other civilized countries. Yeah. If they don't want to go to farm, send them to their church to be sweeping. The church will be paying them something. They have been collecting tithe. Let them be collecting something by themselves because they don't like shame. You see, criminals are cowards. If you give criminal a cover, it's going to intimidate you. But tell criminal, try to expose criminal, he will go back to his shell. So we need to know what we are going to do to the bad Muslim, the bad Christian, either in leadership or out of leadership. What do we do to the accountant who cook the book? The accountant is supposed to protect the book. What do we do to the lawyers who are liars? What do we do to the judges that mess all of us up? What do you do to an engineer that compromise the mix of the concrete and the iron and the rest of it? What do you do to the contractor that bring all this to happen on us? And when there is road collapse or building collapse or electricity fail or whatever, all of us suffers the consequence of one professional who call himself a professional, but in this case, who is a cheat. What do we do to them? So it's not about sermonization. We have done enough prayers. We have done enough sermon. And we are always doing it. But what do we do in concrete terms? And those are the things. And that is why we are saying, in our own organization, we are pushing for halal. Let us think Nigeria. Everything Allah created in this country is halal. Beginning from farm produce to animal and they are all halal. Until you mix alcohol with it. So, if we are not wearing our dress, and we are not eating our food, and we are not using our tools, and we say we are poor, how is going to enrich us? When Allah, in His infinite wisdom, have enriched this country. So if we refuse to use it, then we are not there, and we are only deceiving ourselves. So it is for us to push this concept. What is good for a sick person when he's sick is good for a healthy person. A food that when you have diabetes, they now say, don't drink alcohol, don't smoke cigarettes. When you don't have diabetes, it's also for you forbidden not to smoke, not to eat alcohol, not to drink alcohol. When they say, do not take processed food when you have diabetes, it means when you don't have diabetes, processed food, junk food is not good for you. So we have all of these natural things here, and we are not using it, and we are still looking abroad and looking for foreign aid and all that. We are only deceiving ourselves. So in Islam, you are not allowed to be beaten to be stung by a scorpion in the same hole twice. Okay. It means you have to learn our lessons. It means we need education, holistic. We need family values. We should get married and ensure that we stay married so that our children can know us and build a home. And we have to eat right and think right so that this nation, this beautiful nation of ours, can grow. Because if we are still praying for Nigeria now, we are only deceiving ourselves. God have answered the prayer of Nigeria. It is for Nigerians to key into Nigeria so that they can draw the goodness of Nigeria. God bless Nigeria.
All right. Well, over to Maiduguri Network Center. And Dr. Garba Abari, your parting words as we wind down.
Very much, Cyril, and I want to say kudos to all the panelists, and especially the concluding remarks of Ustaz Musa Dawood. We must actually think Nigeria. This is a beautiful country, well endowed. We must live by example. Our leaders must lead by example. And it is only through leadership by example that we will be able to develop our institutions of state. People must be held accountable for their actions. Wherever there are infractions, they must be followed by sanctions. Wherever there are infractions, they must be followed by sanctions. And this must be applied to whoever the person is, and however highly placed. A country that does not apply sanctions on infractions is on the path of lawlessness. And a lawless society cannot be a peaceful society, cannot be a secure society. And this is exactly the price we are paying. The price of impunity, the price of lots of sanctions for infractions, and the price of not holding people to account for their actions. And it is actually now, looking back at our recent experiences, the time to rededicate ourselves to come back onto the path of righteousness and begin to apply sanctions for people's misconduct and for people's misbehavior. And secondly, is the issue of having a critical look at our entire educational system. Our education system needs to be made so aligned as to function properly. Our younger children do not seem to have an understanding of the history of this country. Many of them do not know where we are coming from, and are they aware of where we are headed. And you need not go far to see how much our education system is not helping us to integrate, unless you see the kind of hate, the amount of hate that you see going on in the social media. I'm always on Twitter. I'm a very active. My Twitter handle is very active. Okay. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And the amount of hate that I see coming from younger children in this country tells me that we are headed for a doom. Therefore, we feel we must take our value reorientation, civic education, functional education back to the schools. Our education system needs to be looked at very hardly. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Garba Abari, Director General of the National Orientation Agency. As I always say, no one program can take care of all the issues. So we'll just go to our Kaduna Center and say a big thank you to Professor Shetima Ali Dikwa, who's an international scholar and sociopolitical analyst. Prof, we thank you very much for sharing your time with us and bringing your wealth of experience to the table for us to share in it. Thank you so much, Prof, for being here. Okay, well, all right. Back in Abuja studio, we'd like to say a big thank you as well to Musa Dawood, National Coordinator for Islamic Family Foundation. We thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Right. Reverend Israel Akonji, it's always a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And a big thank you to Ustaz Abubakar Sadiq Mohammed. We thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. And we also thank you for being part of this program tonight. Next week, we'll reach you again on NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover, and I say enjoy the rest of the holiday. Bye for now.